It is so nice to have Dana Hotle, the executive director of the Chamber Project St. Louis. They are celebrating their 15th anniversary. Dana, I can't believe it. Hello.
Hello, thank you. It's great to be here.
Great to have you with me. Cannot be 15 years already.
15 years. It's so exciting. We had no idea when we started, and it's just feels great to be at 15 years.
It has to be. Now, let me ask who all started this?
So I'm one of the founders, and then Jennifer Gartley, who's the executive director, Laura Raycraft. She's artistic director, both artistic directors now. And also when we started, had Adrienne Honold, who is a saxophonist, Dr. Adrienne Honold, I should say. And she had an opportunity to move to Europe. So she's back in the States now, and she's actually going to be joining us on our concert in February, which is really exciting. So we were the founding members 15 years ago.
Unbelievable. And of course, you've had some really wonderful, faithful, shall I say, co-conspirators like Nina Ferrigno and other people who are tightly woven into the organization as well.
Yes, so we work with probably in any given season 15 to 20 area musicians. There's about 8 that are kind of core. There's a group of us that works together, even though every concert has a different instrumentation and sometimes different musicians on it. There's this core group like Nina Frigno on piano and Kyle Lombard and Jane Price on violin and Marta Kieva cello. Of course, Laura plays viola, so we have a string quartet, and Megan Stout on harp plays with us a lot. So yeah, there's this core group, and then we bring people in. And so that's really fun to have this large group of musicians that works together. It's really like a family now.
And it gives you such flexibility as far as literature too, and to have those people that you just know is so reliable.
Yeah, and it's fun to play with all the different instruments and different combinations of instruments. Yeah, percussion, sometimes in voice, and we've brought in brass. So it's a lot of fun.
When you first started out, can you kind of give folks a brief overview regarding what your main goal was and where you are now and that sort of thing?
Sure. So when we started, we were a group of friends like just hanging out. And we started talking about the specific piece of music that we wanted to play, which is the Prokofiev oboe quintet. And we thought, oh, let's just do it. Let's like put on a concert. And then we started to talk about what kind of concert do we want it to be? Because we had a strong sense that the traditional concert where you come in and you sit down and you clap and the musicians come out, they play, you clap, they leave, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But we thought, well, we kind of want to update that or do something a little different. And we want the programming to be more representative of who we are. Of course, this is a group founded by women. In reflection, we've all thought about like, we have between us a ridiculous amount of music degrees. I won't even tell you. Yeah, but we all have multiple degrees in music. Everyone who plays with us has at least 2 degrees in music. And you can sit down and think, well, I went through 6 years of college and played, I think, one piece of music by a woman at premier music institutions, right? And probably none by a person of color. So this isn't who we are as a community. And this isn't who we are as individuals running this organization. So from the start, we had 2 ideas around more inclusive programming that represented us and our community and a different format for concerts. And we didn't quite know what that was. And in our early years, we did some experimenting with different types of concerts. And I can tell you some of them were awful. We
It
had
happens, but it's experimentation.
no, but we tried a lot of different things. And looking back on it now, I see, wow, classical music is a industry and an art form that is so tied to tradition. And here we were, we're gonna do all and just, wow, we were really trying some radical things. We really did some different things. A lot of it was venue based, which is something we've continued to refine of playing music in non-traditional venues, not in concert halls, not in churches. They're the 2 typical places for chamber music. I mean, we do occasionally play in a church and a concert hall, but to really take music to where people already are going, and that would be a great way to invite new audiences in, because we know the chamber music lovers are going to come hear it, right? So how do we bring in new people? Well, we play in a bar, we play in a tap room, we play in a library, we play in a museum, we play places people are already comfortable going, or that they would go for other reasons. They've already been there. So
Mm.
that hurdle of, it's a fancy concert hall, what do I wear? How do I act? Like, that's been taken away. It's a huge challenge to put every concert in a different venue, like organizationally, but it's so fun. It's so fun. And our fans love it. Like, if you follow us, you get to little tour of St. Louis every year, right? Like, you get to go to all these different places. And I think that that's fun. And they've really started to trust us on, like, well, I've never heard of this place, but we'll go see. Like the classical music people. It's like the opposite of the other people we're bringing in. It's a fun thing to do. And we tailor our programs to the venue also a little bit.
Mhm.
We're always considering what's going to work in this venue best. There's also been some experimentation there. Some has worked, some has not. So we've learned in 15 years, like, this works well in a tap room. This works better in a concert hall. This needs to be a little bit more formal. This needs to be a little more relaxed, or fits being a little more casual. We love to have social time around the events so that our audience is a community, which is sort of that, like, core of chamber music, of that old salon thing of it's a gathering, and you can have a beverage if you want, and you can see the same people concert after concert and have time to talk if you want that. Our intermissions are as long as the bar line, so
I love it.
I'm casual it depending on the venue, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's kind of how it is. We love that experimentation with venue. And then the other piece we have really come into is a narrated concert format, a thematic narrated concert format. So depending on the program, sometimes there's quite a bit of talking as well as the music. And to us, that's like really one of the things that sets us apart, is that we tell the story of the music and of the theme of the program. And we're often programming, or we almost always are programming, actually, music that is new to almost everyone in the audience, alongside traditional, historically popular pieces of music. We link them together, and it makes all of it more accessible to everybody that way.
A
So the
great idea.
concert goers, they're hearing something new. They might be hearing it in a frame they'd not considered before. And people who haven't been to concerts very much, they're getting all this information. And we're not talking academic information, right? We're not talking about chord progressions and you know, although we do sometimes talk about, like, if that's sort of part of the core of what we need to talk about, we do talk about it sometimes, but it's a lot more about storytelling. We'll read the poem. If there's a poem associated, you'll get a dramatic reading. So that's one of the things that really is different about what we do.
I think that's so great though, because that narrated concert style does inform the people about it ahead of time. It's not a guided listening per se, but it opens up their awareness. They might hear something that might be mentioned in the poem. There's a bird in the poem and a flute lick. That sort of a thing where they are more aware and centered in what you're presenting.
Exactly. And it also provides a lot of context. And I think once you
Mm.
studying music, or you really get into music or art or whatever it is, architecture, the context of the time that it was written is so important. You can listen without
Absolutely.
it, but once you get added these layers and layers of knowledge and understanding, it just brings it to life so much, that the context of the times and the person who wrote it, and it adds so much richness to the music, to your listening experience. That is part of why we started a commissioning project, and we're now up to, I believe, 15 commissions by St. Louis connected composers, which is huge. I mean, nobody else I know of is doing this. And so it's been really great. And there's actually a ton of great composers here in St. Louis.
You are so right. We are so blessed in that regard.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so what happens when you commission a living local composer is you get music that relates directly to the audience, because we're all living here together. We're all living in this time together, in this place together. And they capture that so well, and people love it. They love that, which is something we didn't totally know was going to happen when we started it. that's been really great to build a community around music, not just with the audience, but with our artists, right? The people we work with, composers and the musicians, and that like all of it is a part of the ecosystem of creating art. So it's been really fun to do that.
And I love the fact that you are so open to those intuitive moves, that that inspiration comes and away you go with it. I think that's part and parcel of what keeps an organization thriving and interesting and always evolving. One of the things I was going to ask you was what has surprised you? There you go, right there, the commissioning project. How fortunate it works out now as an average of one a year.
Well, it does. I mean, it took us a while to start it, 2 or 3 a year.
Yeah.
And this year we have two. But yeah, it does work out to one a year. I hadn't thought of that. Thanks. It took us a while to build that.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, you've got to get that momentum underneath you financially to do it. By the way, I'm speaking with Dana Hotle, who's the executive director of Chamber Project St. Louis. They're coming up on their 15th anniversary concert on Sunday, February 5th at 7 o'clock in the evening. And it's going to be at the Schlafly Tap Room upstairs in the club room. With this concert, you mentioned on your website that you all are celebrating with some of your favorite music.
So we typically have a theme like myth or retold, or a theme of American Girl this year. This is celebrate. So we're pulling out some of our favorite pieces that we've played over the last 15 years that are personally meaningful to us as musicians, that also represent our inclusive programming style. So we have a piece by Valerie Coleman. She's a composer, wonderful composer. And this is a more recent piece that we actually played on some of our outdoor concerts during the outdoor season that we all had there. But this is a wonderful piece called Mwambe Asante. We've got Rebecca Clark's Prelude, Allegro, and Pastoral for clarinet and viola, which is a duet we played so many times in our early years when we didn't have much funding. There's two musicians involved. Rebecca Clark is a really interesting figure in the history of music, and this has to be one of the best duets ever written. It is a fantastic piece of music. I never get tired of playing it.
Wow.
So interesting. It's so beautiful. I just can't say enough about this piece of music. It's a stunning duet. Laura and I will play that, which is one of the first pieces we played together. So this goes way back. It continues to be a huge favorite.
And for those listening, it's for clarinet and viola.
Right. And Rebecca Clark was a violist. She wrote one of the standard sonatas. So she's very interesting. And I'm telling you, it is top-notch writing. And we're also going to do Samuel Coleridge Taylor, part of the clarinet quintet. This has become another favorite piece of mine. He was an Afro-British composer. His father was enslaved in America and then freed and moved to Liberia. Anyway, there's this whole amazing story with him. He died pretty young, which is unfortunate. I believe he wrote this, he was like 19 or 20 when he wrote this quintet. So we're going to do a movement of that. Kinji Bunch is a favorite composer. He's on the West Coast. He's great. This is one of an audience favorite composer, audience favorite piece called String Circle for string quintet, 2 violins, 2 violas, cello. Great piece. He's fantastic composer. And then celebrating our commissioning project, we're going to play a piece by Zachary Cairns, who's a professor at UMSL. This is a piece we commissioned in 2013 or 14. It's called Passing Through, and it's inspired by the Gateway Arch. And so he found some of the diagrams of like some of the math of the engineering, and he took some of those numbers and he incorporated them into the way he wrote the music. Wow. And yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. It's a lovely piece for string trio and saxophone. So Dr. Adrian Honnold will be coming down from Chicago to perform this piece with us as one of our founding members, and the commissioning project, like it all ties together. Neat. So that's a neat piece. And then we'll finish the program with Maurice Ravel's Introduction in Allegro, which is for strings, winds, and harp, which is like stunning, amazing.
Gorgeous, yes.
Gorgeous piece of music. It was one of the first kind of bigger pieces that we had the funding to do way back in the day when we were really little. This was like, oh, can we do this many people? Oh, this is a lot of people. We're really at grassroots. I mean, we literally 4 friends in a living room, 5 friends, or like there was some help at the beginning, and like, are we gonna do this? We had zero funding, zero fans, zero venue, zero knowledge of how to use a spreadsheet, like
Well, look what all you learned. See, 15 years is a long time. I like what you said, 4 friends in a living room. That should be a startup quartet.
our first album name
Yeah, there you go.
really started. And I have to say, what has gotten us here is really St. Louis. It's the community, it's the donors who came out, took a chance on us, liked what we were doing, loved what we were doing, come over and over and over again. Donations, and that it's not just the donations, which have been fantastic, but it's the enthusiasm, the commitment of like, we get your mission and we are here for that. Take some chances. We're going to take a chance on you because you're taking chances and you're passionate about it. And it's really the community that has gotten us to 15 years. And so really celebrating. We will have cake at this concert.
All right.
We're gonna have fun and have a little party and have some really great music, and the bar will be open. You can eat if you want to have dinner. You can come early and eat. Come upstairs for the concert and have dessert with us and hang out.
Have a little cake with Chamber Project St. Louis. I'm so excited for you because your supporters really relate to the passion with which you do this. 15 years, that's really something for 4 friends in a living room. For the future, anything that's up or excitement?
Well, we have the rest of our season, and actually we have 2 new collaborations coming up. So we have our concert on February 5th at Schlafly, which is, it's just a celebration of what we do and who we are and where we've been, and jam-packed with our favorite tunes, which is really fun. Then in April, we're collaborating with the Sheldon on their classical series, and we will be performing a concert called Retold. Listening forward to history is the idea. And we'll be premiering a piece by a young composer from the Mizzou, I think, New Music Initiative. And we've built a program kind of looking at American history through a different lens. We have a Cindy McTee piece, lives in St. Louis. She's planning to be there. We have a really cool piece for solo violin called by Carlos Simon. He's big news right now. It's called Between Worlds, and it's about an African-American artist who was enslaved and then lived through the war and all this and became a folk artist. And so it's a very interesting thing. It's Between Worlds is the name of the piece. We've got Franz Joseph Haydn on that piece talking about the Enlightenment and how that's a part of American history. And then Dvorak piano quintet. So like that's a really great kind of typical program. We have living composers, we have looking at culture of America and the history of America, different look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And then really exciting is June 2nd, we're doing a real collaboration with the St. Louis Art Museum. And I'm so excited about this program. So it's called American Girl. All of the music on the program is by female American composers. And the curators at the museum are pairing each piece with an American artist, connecting either to something about the music or the story about the composer. We don't have a date for this yet, but we're going to have a tour by the curators associated with that. Probably not the same day as the concert, but in conjunction with that, you can go through the museum and see the art. They're pulling stuff from the collection that's not on display. I mean, so this will be very narrated, right? We'll have the curators will speak about the artists, and we'll speak a little about the music, and then we'll have the music. And so a real celebration of American arts. That's fun. June 2nd. So in the next season, we are excited about what we do, and we're going to keep it going. Plan it right now. We've already got some great program ideas and looking at all the possible collaborations, and anyone has a piece they want to hear, let us know. We actually often take audience suggestion. There's been a whole program theme that was suggested by one of our audience members that we ran with. They were like, what about these 2 pieces? Here's a cool theme. And we're like, yes, let's do that. And we went and found the rest of the program. And so we take our thematic ideas from an individual piece, from a composer. Sometimes we start with a theme, an idea of a theme. Like I had the theme last year of Abraham. And then we went and found Islamic Christian and Jewish linked composers or music to fit in the program of Abraham. That was cool program. We take inspiration from all kinds of places. We're always eager to hear people's ideas.
That's one of the most charming things about Chamber Project St. Louis. It's open to that, the intuitive process, to that creative process. And that takes great integrity of purpose, but also a vulnerability of sorts. Let's try it.
Nailed it. It's true. Let's try this thing we've never seen anyone else do. Okay.
Why not?
And it's scary. We ask our musicians to show up and do what we call a very open rehearsal, which is the very first time they've played a piece of music together, the very first rehearsal, sometimes of a commission. So nobody in the world has ever heard it. There's no recording to study. And we ask them to show up and play that in front of an audience. Talk about vulnerable.
You're right.
Perfect before we get in front of an audience, not crashing and burning. But that's a real opportunity for audience to see what the process is. What is the work of being a musician? What do we mean when we say chamber music is so collaborative? It's a conversation. Like, what does that actually mean? So in our very open rehearsals, you can see that. We've got one. We're going to have another one in May.
Cool.
Do those in collaboration with St. Louis County Libraries, which is great. We had an amazing one in November. So the audience participates in the rehearsal. They get to ask us questions. They can interrupt and say, what are you doing with your bow? Or even, what is a bow? What do you mean by bow? What's a bowing? You can get in and ask these questions. And do you like it faster or slower? I mean, it's this real back and forth between the audience and the musicians with us playing music we've never played together before. So it's a whole thing that's really fun to do and very vulnerable for the musicians.
Absolutely. But that's really where the true art comes out too.
Yep. And I'll tell you, the pieces that we do the very open rehearsals on sparkle in performance every time. It just gives you.
Is that because you've just been out there, with it before, holding hands with it and with your audience and just going, okay, here we go. Let's take a stab at this.
Sort of some magical thing I can't quite name yet, but there is this thing that, we did this with the audience, we did this really vulnerable thing, and you get so much out of it. Like, the process is so interesting, and then that's just a part of the performance then, that, this is that part we worked on, and we're just in it, we're so in it. Excited about it. And yeah, it just adds such an interesting element to the
I
performance.
love the wonder with which you approach this.
Thank you.
And your fellow musicians. There again, it's a sort of a gee golly whoppers wow kind of thing, like, look what we found here. That mutual discovery and that willingness to be out there and be vulnerable and be open to intuition and to suggestion and to all the things that make the creative process so thrilling.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate that reflection. Yeah, it's been wonderful. And to have colleagues that are willing to go there. When I say, let's do this, they're like, okay, Dana. But what's wonderful now is, a lot of the musicians have been with us from the start, and they're like, okay, here we go. At first, I think we're like, what is this?
But it's a trust thing.
And now they're like, all right, let's do it, and they know what to expect. And then when we do add new musicians coming in, they have a lot to latch onto. And so they're like, oh yeah, let's go do this thing. This is cool, So that's really great.
Chamber Project St. Louis has been something very special in our community now for 15 years. The Celebrate concert is going to be fantastic. Let me give this to the audience again. Sunday, February 5th, 7 p.m. at the Schlafly Tap Room upstairs in the club room. Like Dana suggested, come early and have some dinner, then come on up and have dessert and a beverage of your choice as you enjoy all this fabulous music. The Schlafly Tap Room is at 2100 Locust Street in St. Louis. The web address is chamberprojectstl.org. Now you can also call 314-401-0450. I'll say that one more time, 314-401-0450. Or You can go to chamberprojectstl.org. The tickets are very reasonable, only $20 for general admission, $5 for students.
Yep. Come on out. Check us out if you haven't been. And if you have, come celebrate with us. Either way, we want you there.
See music through a whole new lens.
Yep.
Dana Hotle, always a pleasure to speak with you. I just so appreciate you and all your colleagues with Chamber Project St. Louis. A wonderful anniversary concert to you. Let's celebrate.
All right. Thank you so
Celebrate. Thank
much.
you.